Happy Friday, everyone. Happy Fridays with Fidelman. I'm Cheryl Fidelman, life coach, trauma healer, and writer. And today's topic on Fridays with Fidelman is your mind on money. And I've been, these last 5 Fridays, my Fridays with Fidelman have been kind of a summary of what's to come. So in my Trust Yourself Facebook group, I've been doing these live masterminds every week. And so Friday is sort of a summary leading up to the mastermind that's going to start the next week. So the mastermind that's going to start on Monday is Your Mind on Money. So today I'm going to just go over and summarize some of the things that we'll dive deeper into in the masterclass starting on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. That would be Trauma to Truth Masterclass Part 6. On money. All right. So I want to begin with talking about the future, which I think I've covered in a Fridays with Fidelman in the past. But I think that money and the future really have, for some of us, have a very dysfunctional relationship. That our relationship to money and our relationship to the future are can just overlap a lot. So the future, one could say that it's a concept. It doesn't exist. It is filled with plans. It's filled with the fruits of the seeds we're planting today. It's filled with our hopes, our dreams, our fantasies. I imagine a theoretic physicist would say that the future does exist already, and we're just walking into the path that's already laid out. Or somebody might say that, a philosopher of some sort. But setting those theories aside for today, that it is a blank slate, a non-existing black slate that we fill with our mind and our vision. Now, if we don't fill it with our vision, it's going to be filled by the past. If we don't fill it with our vision that we are creating actively, consciously in the current moment, it's going to be filled by our past. The past meaning our inherited thoughts and conditioning around money, the way our parents related to money, the way they related to each other, like their level of communication when it came to finances, who made the money when we were kids, how much was there? Was there an abundance of money? Was there a scarcity of money? Sometimes there's a scarcity of money irrelevant to how much money somebody actually has in the bank. The way that people relate to money and whether they feel it's scarce, whether they feel it's something that flows through them, right? So abundance has a lot to do with the way in which you relate to money, and if you're clearing for a lot of it to come through or a little of it to come through. So, but getting back to our inherited belief systems around money. And so that's what will fill the future if we don't fill it with a current moment vision. And also, our current moment vision inside of trauma healing is not created from the past. So we're not actively creating our vision for the future from our beliefs from the past. We're actually creating it from a clean slate. And And when we are creating it from a clean slate, we are looking purely at our value, like purely at our value. Because unhealed trauma and codependence can taint the way that we look at our value. There are some people that have such a wide variety of skill set, or they have a narrow number of skill sets, but really just mastery. They're experts in certain places, in certain areas. And they are limited by their salary or their hourly wage, and that salary or hourly wage is projected into the future as to the limit of how much that they will make forever, and then retirement, and that's how it's all going to go, right? So there's a vision, but it's created from a particular outlook and point of view on value and worth. And when we're in the present moment, having healed the past, we actually start to look at getting paid for our actual value, and not the price that society or institution or section of the market says you are worth, right? So I'm going to go so far as to say that when you are looking at an institution to pay you an amount of money, and you're going, I can only make the amount of money that this institution is willing to pay me, or this market that I work in is willing to pay me, I'm going to say that that is a codependent relationship to money. Because you're going, my income that I'm making for the work that I'm doing with my God-given time is based on somebody else's word. It's based on somebody else's reality. It's based on living inside of somebody else's preordained system, which is what for a lot of us, had to do when we were children, right? We became codependent because we had a narcissistic parent or guardian. We had somebody in our life who didn't see us for who we are and all of our worth and all of our value. We had to live within their paradigm and their belief system. And so that's how a lot of people are moving forward when it comes to their own value and their own worth. They're living inside of the belief system that's outside of them that says how much they are valued and worth. And this relationship to some outside entity telling you how much you're worth and accepting that, I think really would have one neglect innovation and creation, and having vision for the ultimate realization of what they would uniquely invent in the world. And what I mean by that is, like, you know, and I've said this before, there are some people who they have a real passion for a certain community that they really want to help and they really want to raise and empower and either give money to or just volunteer their time, and they don't do it because they don't have the time or they don't have the money. Well, how would your heart be fully served and fully reflected in the world if you were to say that my time is abundant, my skills are abundant, and my time isn't always attached to money? So if I go volunteer, well, I'm not going to make any money doing that. I might as well do this other thing, or I might as well go shopping, or I might as well work on my necessities, the things that I need. And when you go volunteer or you go create something, then you are innovating, and innovating would be outside of any already ordained and complete belief system. Okay, you're innovating. We are all innovators. We all have something that we can uniquely create and invent that nobody else can. And when we're tied to money when it comes to our worth and value, and we don't put our own price tag on what we think our value and our worth is, then I think it sucks the energy of all of the other, of just innovation and creation in all areas of our life. Especially if you're going, there's only a few ways, 1, 2, or 3 ways that my life could go, that the trajectory of my life can go, considering I make X, Y, and Z. So the amount of money that we make can limit what we think we're going to do with the magnanimity and of life. it will limit the paths that we're going to take and what we think we can do and plan and create and put in the future because of how much money that we make. So, I heard someone say Uber took the car out of driving, or Airbnb took the hotel out of traveling, right? These are innovative, out-of-the-box ideas. And also an interesting, simple way to say it, to grasp the concept that we all have something that can be thought of that is unique and different that nobody else can think of because nobody else has the same set of traumas and triumphs that each one of us has. And additionally, whatever brilliance we came in with that predated our birth. And if we're so tied to a dollar sign and what that dollar sign means to us, then it will suffocate the level of innovation that I believe that we all have. So, or if you have a lot of money and it's already set in your brain what you can and can't do with it, what you can or can't do with money, that will also suffocate the level of innovation and the level of vision that you can create for the future. Another thing that we're going to go into on Monday is, how our parents related to money, how that impact our belief system. Did they talk about money? Did they fight about money? Did they have no money? Were they constantly trying to scrape together to make the bills every month? Did they have a lot of money, but they weren't people that looked like they had a lot of money? Or were they just perfectly comfortable and they had fairly healthy relationship to money? Or did they buy you what you wanted when you were a kid? Or did they not buy you what you wanted when you were a kid? Or did you have to earn it? All of these things shape how we relate to money. And just a quick personal share, I remember, my parents were divorced. My dad was the one who worked. So I think we were fairly comfortable before my dad left. And then my dad left. My mom didn't work. So we lived off of the alimony, which was a decent amount of money for one man to pay, right? Like my dad paid us a decent amount of money, but it was a very small amount of money for 3 people to live on. So we were fairly scarce in the household growing up, and I think I got my first job when I was 12 or 13 or something like that. But what I really wanted to point to in that was I didn't get good grades when I was a kid. I was like fairly disassociated, and so my dad wouldn't buy me things like when he would come and visit on the weekends. He's, I'm not buying you that unless you get an A or a B. I'm just not buying you it. So, and I didn't get A's or B's, and I didn't click into that. I was like, well, fine, screw it. I'm just not going to get A's or B's. Like there's something about my mentality that didn't change by that reward system that he was trying to create. Because I also, when I was a kid, I don't think that I clicked into reward systems. I just was stayed in the lack of discipline space for a long time. So in any case, one could understand why he wouldn't buy me things because I didn't get good grades. But at the same time, I also, like, what that felt like was I wasn't worth it. Like, I wasn't worth him buying me things, and I wasn't worth doing the work. And there was this sort of like, tug of war between, really, really wanting my dad to buy me things and him not getting it for me and me just feeling actually less valuable as a human being, even though I could see it was a reward system that he was trying to create. But I just really felt like I wasn't worth it. So there's so many different angles that money can hit our self-worth, our confidence, the way that we feel about ourselves, the way that we present ourselves, the way that we create relationships, right? Like whether or not, people create relationships with people who are in the same financial bracket as they are, or they have a diverse group of friends who exist in many different socioeconomic statuses, or they just keep with their own kind, or they're with people who make more money and you feel less than. So money is sort of like, gets in the crevices everywhere. And then one other thing I'm gonna cover. Well, I'm gonna cover a lot, but I'm gonna squeeze one more thing here. Is like the hustler life, right? And so there's some people who are just constantly hustling for money, and that is, a product of many, many things. And for one thing, it's a product of never feeling as a child as if you were safe and settled. So you're kind of used to not actually relaxing and feeling that that there's just an innate, like an intrinsic safety net. So one doesn't have that feeling in their body. So if they don't have the feeling, if it's not familiar to have a safety net, then they'll be in the consistent hustle, because that's the feeling that's familiar. Just that like consistent fluttering, receive, you're satisfied, then you're without. Then you receive, you're satisfied, then you're without, right? It just like flows, it constantly always flows back to without. Because that's the sensation in the body that particular psychology would be used to. And certainly I was there for many years. Just the money would just fall through my fingers, and I was broke. I was always kind of broke. Until I shifted a very, very fundamental piece inside of my trauma healing, and that my worth has come from not the past. My worth has come from who I know to be, my current expertise, masteries, and ideas, innovations in the present moment moving forward. And I'm going to keep innovating. It won't be a static career. It hasn't been a static career, and it won't be a static career. It will be a path of continual shift, pivot, transformation, growth, creation, innovation. So therefore, on some level, it's unpredictable what I'll be making in 5 years or 10 years, because it will be based on what I will have innovated at that point that I can't even predict right now, which is really, really super exciting. Which is also a practice of just living in the present moment, because you have room for what is going to be innovated and created anew in the future. The last bit that I want to say is, I was saying this earlier, that we have one life to live and many lives to die. And what I mean by that is the shedding of trauma continually gives us a new life to live. We're shedding beliefs. We're shedding our fears. We're shedding the brackets around our heart. We're shedding resentments. We're shedding disappointments. We're shedding illusions of self. And as we're constantly shedding those, parts of us are dying. The life that was trapped inside of that belief system died. Now there's a new life. It's wrapped in a more wider belief system, and then those heal and get shed, and then you're living a new life and a new life and a new life. So who you identify as a moneymaker can shift, change, grow, and completely morph. It's not static. All right, everybody. Happy Friday. Thank you so much for listening to my thoughts and ideas. Have an awesome weekend. See you in the mastermind in the Trust Yourself Facebook group. Link is below. And happy healing. You are awesome, and life is now. Bye.